Ladies and gentlemen of the congregation, this is Pope Gravy. Please put your hands together for Pastor Baby.
You need Jesus. Go back to church. Bitch.
Welcome to the video, guys. This time we're going to be covering ZG. This is the other 20-man content available from a Paladin's point of view, where we're going to be going over seal twisting, trash, and bosses. But first, before we jump into the video, I do want to cover some of the more obscure things about Paladin, such as mana management and the concept like pro twisting. You want to use Blessing of Wisdom on yourself in all available scenarios. If you are the only Paladin, use Blessing of Wisdom on yourself. However, if you have a Holy Paladin that will typically talent into it, the more you can start to go down the list of the defense and the damage priority, where you can start throwing things in like Kings and Light and Might to just add on those buffs. But Blessing of Wisdom is going to be our baseline buff, just because we need the MP5 in order to not run and to allow us to conserve mana throughout our encounters. The next thing is going to be mindful of the threat you generate and how it is relative to the mob's health and your party's damage. If you have a threat lead on a target enough where it can die from contribution of the rest of your group, you do not need to produce any more threats. If you have sufficient threat on a target, you don't need to seal twist anymore. You can just coast and let yourself regenerate mana from the 5-second rule. If you're playing for damage, then obviously you can let Consecrate and Seal Twisting fly as much as you want, but keep in mind that this will change specifically if you're trying to maintain mana for the next packs. The two builds that are going to be featured here are going to be the 11-13-27. This is going to be the Sanctity self-sufficient build, where you're going to be using a slow one-hander and a slow two-hander, using filler globals such as Blessing Spam, or you're going to be doing Consecrate in between those twists, and you're going to be Pro Twisting. Pro Twisting is going to be essentially an additional timing where you are throwing your Judgment out so that it eats the seal that has the least amount of time, so that you can save yourself a global and keep that seal active to make twisting smooth and easier all around. Right here we have an example of what that rotation is going to look like. I start out in Seal of Command, I swap to Righteousness, and I quickly throw my Judgment. That's going to throw the max rank Seal of Command that I started with, which then allows me to just swap back and forth on my seal twist. I do use rank 1 Seal of Command when Judgment is not available, or if it's not going to be my Judge Seal, because Seal of Command does the exact same damage no matter what the rank is. The only damage that changes is how much it judges for. So you can actually save mana by using a downrank Seal of Command when you aren't going to be judging it. The next build that's going to be featured in here is going to be Wreck Twisting build. Very similarly to our 11-13-27, we're going to be using slow weapons, buff spam and Consecrate, pro twisting all the same, but this time you are going to be more engaged in controlling your auto attack for twisting with Reckoning. This is going to be done by utilizing Reckoning's ability to stack on itself when you are crit, and you can actually bank these crits by stopping your attack. This allows you to move them around to whatever target you want, but when you reactivate your swing timer as your swing is about to occur, it will make all of your Reckoning stacks that you have accumulated come out at the same time, and they will all benefit from your seal twisted buffs that you have active. This will make your threat intake a lot burstier, it'll make it a lot smoother, and it will guarantee that your Reckoning will give you the most amount of impact on your threat per second. So back to the trash here. Most of this is going to be very straightforward, and a lot of these play styles and ways to generate threat are really going to fit in a lot of these cases. Typically in the way that if you are utilizing Flame Wrath, for example, which can be activated by multiple sources, your auto attack, your Judgments of Command, your Seal of Command hits, and your Seal of Righteousness hits, then you may want to seal twist more often, but even consider to do so with low ranks just to get the dice rolls in order to get it to activate. Other than that, you're just going to be keeping the mobs in the content crate as necessary, and typically just AoEing them down, which will generally produce a lot of threat. And depending on how much spell power you have, you shouldn't have any other issues with your AoE threat unless your DPS are going very, very early, but that's going to be an issue that'll persist through TBC just because we don't have snap threat and usually have to use a sapper or dynamite in order to compensate. Here we have High Priestess Jellic. This is going to be the Bat boss. My co-tank was a little overzealous in trying to pull this boss, so I did not get to start with full mana, which did lead to me ooming out, which is fine. Again, you know, the warrior's also pretty taunt happy, so it's just one of those things that you deal with in a pug. Ideally, you'll want to start on top of the block or on top of this rock and jump. This will let you throw your judgment out a lot faster to get it on cooldown to build up your threat. Biggest thing you're going to have to worry about is the opener, as the boss does an AoE silence, and you will need a healer to dispel you, or you'll need to bubble cancel it and just eat the GCD on that. Here I was waiting for the dispel, so I lost a few good seconds, but as you can see, I can still catch up anyway. It was just more an issue of mana to be able to maintain the boss here. But that's going to be the biggest hassle of this boss, is just getting that opener down right. If the fight goes on long enough, there are going to be some bats that will spawn. You just need to aim your Consecrate or your Dynamite to get their attention so that they will stick to you, and you can just continue to use Consecrate to cleave. Do not chase the boss into the casters. You should have very little issue with this boss as long as the silence is dealt with in a very timely manner. Now we have High Priestess Venoxus. This is going to be the snake boss. Ideally, you're going to want to cleave the ads and the boss together on the stairs. Dump your Seal Twist and your Judgment into the boss. The snakes are going to give you potentially more parry and reckoning procs. The boss's Chain Lightning ability has a 10-second internal cooldown from when combat starts. So as long as you deal with these snakes very quickly, you don't have to worry about everyone getting one shot. After the snakes are dead, you're going to bring them down the stairs towards the bonfire for phase 2. Phase 2, the boss is going to turn into a snake, where he will occasionally just drop poison clouds on the ground where you'll just have to shimmy away from them in a very lazy C pattern. And at this point, it's just going to be tank and spank. The boss can also decide to throw Holy Fire at you. If that's the case, you can bubble cancel it to immune it. But again, do so at your own discretion. One little tip that can help you guys out is when you're dealing with trash and AoE, specifically in raid scenarios, don't be afraid to delegate your other tanks towards picking up the stragglers or the odd mobs here and there, especially if they have special mechanics or can be casters where they just aren't easy to gather up. Nothing wrong with that. Just because sometimes you trying to shimmy your way over can lead you to getting dazed and slowed down and cause a lot more issues or even potentially lose mobs. Next boss that we have is going to be the spider boss. This one is going to be pretty straightforward. There are some spider ads that spawn right at the start of the fight. If you can grab their attention, it's great. Otherwise, don't really sweat it. You're just going to be seal twisting onto the boss and just dumping any of your reckoning or parry haste into him. In this fight, in every fight, my warrior was pretty taunt happy, but it's not that big of a deal, especially if you just continue to do your rotation well. You're going to be stealing back the boss, just depends on RNG, but it does suck to spend that extra mana. The big mechanic of this boss is going to be phase 2. If he lives long enough, he's going to turn into a spider, and he is going to do an AoE silencing web. This is going to reset the threat of all local melee, silence them, and root them. So you'll want to put Blessing of Freedom on your co-tank. This is going to prevent them from being rooted and silenced so that they can go chase down the boss and taunt it and bring it back into the melee. Rinse, repeat this as necessary until the boss falls over and dies. Our most challenging or detail demanding boss is going to be Bloodlord Mandakir. This is the Raptor boss. The big things that you're going to have to worry about is that he does a threat reset where he will charge into your caster group, where you'll just need to use buff spam to generate threat on him as you close the distance. This one is going to happen randomly throughout the fight. You may only have it happen once, you may have it happen 4 times. It just depends on the RNG of the boss. The big tools that you can use if it gets out of hand is going to be your target dummy to build you more time to seal twist onto the boss, or your blessing of protection. In this fight here, someone failed the fixate mechanic, which caused the boss to go flying across the room. So I was not able to intervene for that caster as I was anticipating a threat drop. Other than that, it's just going to be managing his threat resets with your threat tools and seal twisting into the boss and getting as much threat out as possible and necessary without completely gassing yourself in doing so. High Priest Akal. This is the council fight. This one's probably going to be the most mechanic intensive in here, but in practice it really isn't that crazy, especially once you get used to putting these things in the back of your mind. The main thing you're going to have to worry about is Zath, who is a rogue, so he will gouge and blind you throughout the fight. You just need to put, again, Blessing of Sacrifice on your co-tank so that you can break them. The Cal is the main boss of this fight, so any excess threat that you dump into him will carry over into the next boss when they all combined. So you'll just want to throw any excess threat that way, but you can 2-tank this fight very, very easily with a paladin. The Cal does have a Mortal Strike though, which can chunk you, and so you need to be aware of that. Just have your priest ready to throw Power Word Shield at you when it comes up. If that is unavailable to you due to comp restraints or just they're unwilling to throw it, then you need to consider using your Bubble Cancel in order to wipe that off so that your healers can top you off again. Because you will be taking extra damage from Blessing of Sacrifice, from Zath, and from the main boss themselves. Once the boss combines, just put your back to a wall, seal twist as needed, and if you can sneak in a Hammer of Wrath without getting pushback on it, absolutely always worth it. Yeah, enjoy, guys. High Priest Arlok. This is going to be the Panther boss. This one is not very intense. There's just one mechanic you have to worry about, and that is gouge. The boss can gouge, so you just will need to put Blessing of Sacrifice on your Kotank. Here I make the mistake of not doing so, and I get gouged for the full 5-second duration, which causes me to fall behind on threat generation, as you can see there. So just put on a Blessing of Sacrifice at the start of the fight. You'll be set after that point. Also be mindful of Flame Wrath in this pyramid. I didn't mind my positioning, so I got a proc which hit through the ceiling because it hits in a sphere, and I grabbed that extra pack that we usually skip. Just be mindful of when you use it and what's around you and above you and below you. But otherwise, very, very simple boss. Don't go too crazy on trying to wrangle the Panthers. Again, they have a fixate mechanic and they don't have a lot of health, so spending excess mana on them typically just really isn't worth it. So usually low rank Seal Twist will, make you very serviceable in that fight when it comes to the Panthers. Next we have Jindo the Hexer. This is the Mosh Pit boss. This one's going to be the most straightforward in here. He's not tauntable, so you just need to Seal Twist, hit him in the mouth, and just don't stop doing so for the entire duration of the fight. Do not turn your attention towards the totems. Let your group and DPS deal with it. Your job is just to corral the boss and generate a threat so that he is not going crazy. He is capable of CCing you with a polymorph. Just bubble out of it or dispel. Again, just try not to lose that uptime and just continue to build threat throughout. Again, very, very easy. This is a tank and spank. You guys have fun. Our final boss of the raid is going to be Hakkar. This one always seems very daunting, but this one's going to be very straightforward, just a culmination of all of the things that we've done in this raid up to this point. Ideally, you'll want to rock your sword and board for this, especially if you're starting out, and just generate as much threat as you can, similarly to Jindo, as this boss is not tauntable. For the first mind control, you do want to use your bubble cancel as soon as possible, just so that you can buy yourself a bigger window to build more threat. As long as you are first or second threat, highest threat in this fight is the only thing that matters. You just need to be above the other DPS. So don't stress it if the other tank is beating you by a mile. As long as you're beating the DPS, that's all that matters. If you are having that much of a significant difference between your threats with your co-tanks, consider using your two-hander, as this will boost up your base damage to 22% if you are talented for it. And you should have very little issue keeping up or maintaining your way. Just understand it is going to make you a little squishier and probably a bit more crit prone. But that's going to conclude the video, guys. I have a lot of fun making these. Again, I have a MC and a BWL on the way. They're already recorded, but the BWL, I messed up the recording, so I'm going to have to do another one. But throw any comments, questions, anything that you have about Paladin, the build, or even just armor pieces, I don't know. I will be happy to answer them when I can, as soon as I can, and in as much detail as necessary. But that's it for me, guys. I hope you guys enjoy this. I really enjoy making these videos, and Paladin is really, really good, and I hope that this helps you guys in your Paladin journeys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.